Well, hi everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and we are live on a Sunday lunchtime. No, why not even lunchtime? Sunday afternoon. I'll explain what's wrong with me today. Anyway, just a very warm welcome to you all. I hope you've had a great weekend. I certainly have. I want to tell you, I was up at 6 o'clock this morning. Actually, 20 to 6 this morning. I got up, so it's been a long day for me already. And for the first time in my life, I'm sure, I put on over 10,000 steps before the time I would normally wake up. And the reason for all of that was I got up to watch the Wimbledon men's final. And gosh, am I glad I did. You know, it's funny, it takes a lot to get me out of bed earlier than I normally get up. But I really wanted to watch that. Hi, Isabel. Good to see you. I really wanted to watch that final. And I have to say that in watching it, there was a moment of sadness in my life. And that was, it's a pity one of them has to lose. All right. And when they're both playing that well, and you sort of go, gosh, somebody has to lose this match, and what a pity it is. It was, I think, probably one of the most exciting finals I've seen in a long time. It had, they both played incredible shots, and quite honestly, the Australian, Nick Kyrgios, he could have won it. There were a couple of moments where you could see he could have won this thing. And I've got a quote that I thought was very relevant to what happened. He said, the quote is this: "Left alone in our own heads, we can be pretty mental." And I am pretty sure the headlines tomorrow will congratulate Novak for winning, but they also will have words to say about the fact that Nick could have won it had he not ended up in his own head again. And he does that a lot. He gets, into his own head, and he starts chirping at um, his own box. He gets angry with them, and he gets angry with himself. And it was just sad to see that he could have won it if he could have just kept his mental control. But who am I to judge? You got to think about, he's lived a lifetime dreaming of being in on center court for the final of a Wimbledon. He literally, when you think about it, that most tennis players, that is their wildest dream. All right, I would love to be able to play center court Wimbledon, and then to be able to play center court for the men's final against the world's top, who had already just, has at that point had won 6 consecutive um, Wimbledons, and then today won the 7th consecutive Wimbledon. That's, there's no losing in that. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, you can't say that he lost. He won, and I hope that when he sleeps tonight, that he knows there was no losing today. He played a phenomenal game, and to take Novak to a tiebreaker on the fourth set, I don't think many people have done that. To have the stamina to be able to take Novak to a tiebreak and the fourth set. It didn't go to five, but it could have done, and that was the exciting part of it. I thought this was another nice quote about winning and losing. If you've ever played sport, and I'm certain some of you have, and by the way, if you're in the chat today, let me know what sports you played. Um, it's a no-win game for us. And by the way, if you're watching on the replay, maybe you could leave a note about which sports you played in the notes. Here's the quote that I found. It said, "It's a no-win game for us, although I suppose we can win by winning." You're right. Um, I seriously believe that Nick Kyrgios won, even though he lost. And I was absolutely amazed at how gracious Novak was in his thank you speech to Wimbledon. He spent an awful lot of time talking about Kyrgios. And, the fact he'd be back and that the audience should expect him back. because he was, such a great player. And he definitely has brought a new life into tennis, Grand Slam type tennis. And I think about it in all the struggles that you may have. All right. How many of you have felt that sometimes, even though it didn't go the way you wanted it to, the journey itself was so eventful, and you learned so much by getting as far as you did? And I can think of many occasions in my life where I participated in something and got close to winning and didn't. As a professional speaker, there were times where it didn't go well. And it's interesting because every time you see a professional speaker stand up on stage, it looks like it's all going well. But I can assure you, um, I had speeches where it didn't go well, and luckily not many of luckily not many of them. But I can remember those days where I came away not winning, and the terrible feeling of that. But I always said the best speeches I ever gave in my life were on the way home, when I worked out what I should have done rather than what I did. And I'm pretty certain you can all think of moments in your life where you can think about that. Maybe it was the way, you brought up your children. Um, Maybe, you said to yourself, if only I'd known more at the beginning, I would have done it differently. Or whatever it is, right? We've all gone through these things in life. But what I do know is that we all do our best. I have yet to meet anybody who gets up in the morning and says, I think I'm going to fail today. Right? I think I'd like to fail today. I don't think people do that. I'm certain that Nick got up today. There's a quote that says, if you think about what you're going to do if you lose, then you've already lost. I hope that Kyrgios got up today thinking what he was going to do when he won. And the nice thing was, he and Novak apparently have struck up quite a friendship over the course of Wimbledon, and which is fun, I think, to be able to see that. And they agreed that whoever won the match would take the other one out for dinner. But Novak couldn't let it be tonight because it was his wedding anniversary. And so it was just like, it made Novak very human in a lot of ways, to hear him talk about things like that. And he was very gracious in winning, I must say. When I say gracious in winning, he shook the hand of every single person involved in his game. And that brings tears to my eyes, because I think that takes great character. He shook hands with all of the ball kids. Every single one got to shake his hand. And that made me cry. Still does, apparently. He shook the hand of every line judge that was on the final. He shook the hand of everybody that he possibly could. And I was seeing how long it took him to actually leave being on show. All right, and I know that feeling, because again, I've been in situations where I've spoken in front of a crowd of 7,000 people, and even though you finish speaking, you're still on show. Why? Because people are thanking you, and people are want to entertain you, and they want to talk to you, and all that sort of thing. So even though your gig is finished, you are still on show. And it took him well over an hour before he was free of the main press. And I'm pretty sure he went on to do other press chats as well. And you go, all he probably wanted to do was to lie down and rest. And we know, because we talked about it a few weeks ago, that, professional tennis players do not finish a game and go and rest. They finish a game and then they go and wind down on a bike. And then they get massaged. And then they get, hot and cold ice baths and hot tubs, all these things that they have to do to help the body wind down. And it takes, it takes about 3 or 4 hours. before they're actually free to go and sleep. And, I am certain that it will be, I'm certain they both will be very tired tonight. They played an awesome game. And I want to say that Australia should be proud. I know that he lost it every now and then. That's Nick Kyrgios. But they still should be very proud of what he did. And, it was lovely to see young Prince George in the royal box with his mum and dad. And he just looks so grown up, dressed in a suit but he really did. He looked the part. And then cute, really cute. When behind the scenes in the Wimbledon building itself, he got to talk to Novak with his mum and dad. And Novak handed him the trophy because he knows that he likes to play tennis. And I think that was I don't know about you, but it was such a touching moment, where Novak, you could say to him, one day you could hold this for yourself, earn it to yourself, keep playing. And it was just so cute to watch. And then you watch this poor little prince, holding this dirty great trophy, and you could see he was struggling to hold it after a few minutes, and then mommy stepped in and took it from him, and then handed it back to Novak because she didn't want to be holding it either. It's very interesting to hear. You probably all know about Wimbledon, and that it's the event every tennis player wants to play, and they all want to play center court and win. But I thought it was very interesting. You probably know that it's the All England Lawn Tennis Association. And do you know that it only has a few members? That stunned me. And Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, I'll get that right in a minute. Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, she is the patron. And obviously she is a member, but she is in a very select few. I think it's something incredibly small, like 135 people. Can you believe that? But they got this incredible venue. Now, do more people than that play on the courts? I'm sure they do. But, it's interesting, isn't it, that there's so few. And if ever you see anybody wearing a bow, like a bow badge, and it's purple and green, they are one of the 134. Right? They're the only people allowed to wear that bow. So just, keep your eyes peeled. And obviously, Catherine was wearing hers every time she appeared. I was, as you all know, a little bit worried about Nick Kyrgios's language and would he let rip. And then, of course, when I saw that young Prince George was there, I was really concerned. I wasn't so concerned, funny enough, about Catherine and William. I'm pretty certain they've heard all that language many times and used it. It was just like, the 10-year-old. How old is he now? Jody, could you check? But you're going, that's a whole different story, isn't it? But they were very quick to make sure there wasn't any disruption. There was one guy in the audience who caused trouble, and did they remove him out of there quickly. But very interesting. So, how about this one? I don't like the idea of competition. How about you guys? What do you think about competition? Do you think that at school, he's 8 years old. Thanks, Jody. Do you think at school we should have competitions where people win and people lose? Or do you think we should all just get participation badges? Let me know your answer on that one because it's something I want to talk about. He turns 9 on the 22nd of July. Yes, I had a feeling he was going to turn 10, but it's 9. Okay, thank you. Anyway, here's the quote. I don't like the idea of competition, maybe because I kept losing them when I was a kid. Maybe it's better to be the one who loses. Can any of you see an advantage in losing a top match like that? First of all, does he still get to say he was in the Wimbledon final? Yep. You know, I was a bit surprised and a little bit hurt at the way that Nick was flipping his, silver plate that he got, um, as a winner. Didn't get the trophy obviously, but he gets a big silver plate. And I want to tell you that that takes less time to clean than the trophy. But I don't think they even get to take the trophy home. I got a feeling they get a replica of it in some way, but I don't think you get to take the whole trophy home. I could be wrong on that. The reason I say that is I, have known people who won trophies, well-known trophies, and they got to have like an Oscar, right? But it's not the Oscar, right? It is a replica of it. So it is. What I'm saying is, I'm not sure that they get to take it home. Why? It could get stolen. All sorts of things can happen to it. It's a bit like the Stanley Cup. And I don't know if any of you saw the Stanley Cup got dropped on the ice this year. after they won. I can't even remember who won now. But anyway, after they won, the guy was skating in to get the photograph taken, and he tripped and he dropped the Stanley Cup on. Luckily, it caught at the bottom, not at the top. But it was just like there'll be some damage to that cup now. I also thought it interesting that they are obviously ready for either person to win, and they have the lettering. They receive a 2/3 three-quarter size replica. Thank you, Jody. That's what I had a feeling. They don't get to take it home. They get to take the replica home. But the moment that Novak won, they literally had like letraset. And you could see them marking the board at the All England Lawn Tennis Association clubhouse. They marked the board, and you could see them rubbing that lettering on. So they obviously have it. It's a bit like Super Bowl, right? They're ready for either team to win, and in this case, they obviously had Nick's name ready in case he won it. But it was really quite moving to see that go down. And then, of course, his name will yet again go on the trophy 7 times. It's quite something. And what I thought was interesting in terms of this year is we definitely have a new generation of tennis players coming through, younger players that are coming through and showing. And we know that the US Open, which I think is the next major Grand Slam event, and at the moment, Novak is not allowed to play because of what happened with COVID. But I heard John McEnroe really push to have him be allowed to play. He said it a number of times. If the US doesn't let Novak play, they're stupid. Why? Because he is a big draw. There's no doubt about it. But what I also heard this time is that this Nick Kyrgios is drawing such crowds because of the exciting way in which he plays. He's a bit like the Spaniard that I've been watching this year, Carlos, and he also plays this very aggressive, brilliantly fast game. And I think we've had a decade, for those of you who know tennis, a decade of people just hitting from the baseline and, doing the occasional really smart shot. But I think it's, these youngsters are doing shots between their legs and all sorts of things and starting up a whole new type of tennis almost. There's nothing to say you can't hit a ball from between your legs. If you get the ball lands very close to you, they literally stand and and they can get it. And how many times did we see during this competition them run for a ball that should have been a ball that was in and a winner, and they got that ball? I cannot tell you how many times that happened. Why? Because they're fitter and younger and they're training harder. And so you look at it and go, it is not about losing. In losing in Wimbledon, can you imagine how many youngsters, and this is what was mentioned, want to be the next Nick Kyrgios already. All right. How many youngsters want to learn the trick shots that he does? And he obviously trains very hard to be able to play them. And how many other players are now doing the same thing because he's winning so many points doing trick shots. I saw that with young Carlos as well, even though he didn't make it into the quarterfinals, which I was surprised at. But he also has a lot of trick shots that he puts in, and other players are copying that. So I look at it and go, we all learn from losing. Jody, my mind went to you and the rest of my viewers who are struggling with health issues. And I was thinking, some of you have had what I call repeated health issues, all right? Like you get one thing and you struggle to overcome it. And as fast as you overcome it, you get another thing. And just when you've learned to live with the second thing, then the third thing comes. And I'm certain that in the moment that it happens, it feels like losing. In the moment that you get re-diagnosed with something new, that it must feel like losing, and yet you battle on. I thought it was amazing. I heard from Erin this week. And for those of you who don't know, Erin is bedridden. She has the use of, hang on, I have to think of lying. I lay down on a bed with her when I went to visit her. I didn't want to stand higher than her and talk to her. So I lay on the bed with her, and she lay on her left side, and she had the use of this hand and her head. If she wanted to move anything else, she needed help. And I know that you cannot meet somebody that has an incredible view on life without being a winner. And without them being a winner as well. I came away from meeting Erin knowing I would never look at trouble the same way again, because whatever troubles hit me, the chances are that I wouldn't have to cope with the stuff that Erin copes with. And she wrote to me this week and said that they had measured her for a seat that could lift her off her bed, and they were making a custom-made seat. And then they were also making a custom-made wheelchair sort of thing for her. But she said that apparently they decided that she's at a stage where maybe having a wheelchair for her isn't the best idea. She can't do that anymore. It's too painful for her. So what they're making her is a wheelchair gurney. Think about that. In other words, like a speed bike, where they will transfer her lying down from her bed onto a horizontal wheelchair, the way she can lie face down and control it. You can imagine her, I can anyway, and having met her, I can imagine her, racing up and down corridors and things with it, because she's that sort of person. Yes, Jody is saying the same thing. And those of you who don't know who Jody is our admin. Jody is saying, Erin is such an inspiration, one of the strongest people I've ever known. Yes, you don't hear Erin complain about stuff any more than you hear Jody complain about stuff. It is truly amazing. And it is, I can just visualize her. And then I thought about it, and I thought, for her to be told that they're not going to make her a wheelchair means that they have told her she's not going to be sitting anymore. And I thought, that would be losing. But then they sweetened the pot by saying, but what we're going to build you is a special gurney, so that when you want to go places, you can be on it and still have that freedom. And I thought, what a great thing for them to do. And that must have brought tears to my eyes as well. One of the things you learn being a competitor, and that's why I wanted to know how you guys feel about, there she is. Hi, Erin. I wanted you to tell me what you think about competition. Do you think competition, where somebody wins and therefore somebody loses, is a good thing? Or are you of the opinion that the nobody wins, we all get participation badges, sort of thing, is the better way to go. Now, one of the things I used to say to people, I was a competitive sports person, hard to believe, but I was. I was first team almost any sport that I participated in. And troublemaker, you can probably imagine that. And also, inspiration, you can probably imagine that, right? But I, I know that there were things that they put me into because of my attitude. They knew that I had a winning attitude. Does that make sense to everybody? And I've told the story before, but it's worth repeating because it's about Erin's mentality or Jodi's mentality, or I see that Kimmy's here with us. Kimmy's done incredible work at changing the way she looks at life by looking after herself better, and I want to make sure I give her kudos for that. All right, Jodi's saying, I was never a fan of everybody gets a trophy attitude. All right. So why not, Jodi? What is it about competition that you think is good? I want to tell you that I can remember that I was on the athletics team. I know, again, hard to believe, that made it through to the state finals. It was in England, but we made it that far. And I can remember that our physical education teacher came to the group and said, we've got a situation which is interesting. We've got a situation where we need just 3 points. Or was it one more point? I think it might have been, we just need one more point to win this. And we're all looking at them saying, but we've finished all the events. And they said, well, actually, no. And we all sort of looked at them and went, yeah, we all knew which events we were in, and we'd done all the events, including, the relay and the shot, not the shot put, with the relay, the javelin, hurdles, all those things, we'd done them all. And she said, yes, but there's still the final of the shot put. And then we all just laughed because we've never done that. Yeah, well, I know we've never trained for it, but do we have anybody that we think could get away with faking it? And what happened, right? all my teammates just turned and looked at me and they all said, Sal. And I went, what? And they said, you could fake it. You could pretend that you'd done it before. And I said, you're going to put me into shot put? Yeah, that's the one where you hold the ball like this and you spin around and you huck it, right? And I want to tell you that the physical education teacher said, Sal, we just need you to agree to do it. They've only got a couple of people in your age group in the competition. So you're going to win a point. I think there were only 2 other people or something in my age group. So if I went in, I was sure to win a point. And if I won the point, we were winners. And I went, so I can't really fail? And they said, no, as long as you can throw a good ball. In other words, I don't mean a great one. I mean, get it over the basic line. As long as you can do that and, be a participant, you will get a point. And if you get the point, then we actually win. And I said, well, under those circumstances, how could I say no? I don't mind telling you that making a fool of myself has never been a problem. That's sort of like, that's fine. And especially for the greater good. And I don't mind telling you that I went to go and pick up that shot ball. It is heavy, people. I don't want you to think that it is, it's like made of lead or something. I don't know what it's made of. Jodi will probably look it up for us. But it is a heavy iron. I don't know what it is. It's like a cannonball. It is really heavy. And the first time I went down to pick it up, I came up without it because it was just like, of course, and then I just played the maggot and pretended that I meant to do that. And, the other competitors were laughing. And then, I'd watched it, and I was watching other people do it, so, well, you just know you've got to get the right sort of, there's something about weighing it in your hand like this, as you put it to your chin. And then you've got to get this arm. This arm, ends up being your fulcrum. It's the thing that gives you the turn, right? So you sort of get wound up a bit, and then you go, I'm not going to do it because I'll end up on the floor. But then you end up doing the twirly bit, and then you hack this thing. Well, I want to tell you that I'd love to show you I won it. Lead encased in a steel shell. Yeah, so you can imagine this. And I had a feeling it was made of lead because I can remember going, okay, this is not going to be as easy as I thought. By the way, the reason that they voluntold, I was voluntold, in other words, I was told to volunteer. I didn't offer to willingly at the start. But the reason they did is because I did javelin, which meant I had strong upper body. And I did, I can't remember what the other thing was that made the physical education person think that I could huck this thing without, dropping on my toes. But I nearly came second. I didn't, but I nearly came second. I hucked one, and I don't know what happened, but I must have got the twirl right, and I must have got everything. It's like life sometimes turns you into a winner, right? Even though I knew I entered knowing I was going to lose, and that was okay, because in losing, we would win. But there was something about I faked it so well, I nearly came second. And all my team just about went insane and said, only Sal could get away with it. So yes, the thing is, there is great learning in losing, and there is great learning in competing. Jody's saying, competing with a winner and a loser, all right, does have really substantial benefits. All right, she's saying it creates better coping skills. You need to learn that in life you don't always win, and you also need to learn to lose with grace. Now, if grace isn't running, but yes, it's really important to learn how to lose. And if any of you were sports people in your day, you will know that a graceful loss is an audience loves a graceful loser, right? They love a graceful winner too, right? They don't want an arrogant winner, but they really respect a graceful loser. And so to me, I think it is important. There is a reason why I believe that for example, I got hair falling out here, why all the royal children end up at schools where they will have to compete a lot. And then also they end up in the military of their choosing. Some go into the Navy, some go into the Army, and so forth. But they all learn basic training, and they all learn to be losers, even though they're royal. Why? It's a very important lesson to learn, to how to follow orders and how to lose gracefully. And so to me, it was really wonderful to see. And I know that Novak, when he was giving his thank you speech to the audience, the gallery, he noticed that his daughter was there, such a pretty little girl. And he said, now, my son is missing, but he's probably in the back playing tennis with Ryan. Paul Ryan? Who's Paul Ryan? But that's what he said, that he, every time he was missing at Wimbledon, he was at the back on a court somewhere playing with, one of the other kids. And it was just like, isn't that wonderful that his children are already that competitive. And I loved it when um, John McEnroe was saying that, his band, I think John McEnroe's in a band of some sort, um, we're all going to get together, after the Wimbledon. And of course, he was promoting people should come and listen to them. But the thing was that when he was doing his thank you speech, I noticed that Novak said, must have been when he was doing it live, not on the court, but on the television interview afterwards. He actually said to John McEnroe, who wasn't interviewing him, somebody else was, yeah, Johnny, get ready to play doubles. And so apparently he plays, that John McEnroe still plays with the top players. Isn't that wonderful? When he is, that much older than them all. So I thought that was wonderful. So bad allergy day, and I have taken medication, so it's bad. And I repeated this last week, but I want to say it again. The Rolex commercial that, because they obviously are a sponsor of Wimbledon. But one of the lines in their commercial is that you have to remember that the people competing at that level are not competing against the other person. They're competing against themselves. All right. They're trying to better their own play. And you really saw that today. I mean, I want to tell you something. Both players played to an unbelievably high standard, which you would expect, I guess, at the final. But there's something about being in the Wimbledon final that they play just that much better. And I wonder if any of you have been put to the test where when you had to compete under those circumstances, that you did a better job than you had ever done before. And there is something about high-level competition that does that. And by the way, it's not just in there. When you're talking about competing against yourself, right? What you're trying to do is to have the best game you've ever played. And do I think that Nick Kyrgios played the best game of his life? Probably. I mean, I haven't seen them all, but I want to tell you, he was so exciting to watch. So in life, winning and losing will both happen. Agreed? What is never acceptable is quitting. And that's what I love about people like Erin and people like Jody and, all of us who are what I call survivors. All right. Quitting doesn't come into the equation. It's a case of, this is the hand I got dealt. Now, how am I going to cope with it? And so I want to just take a moment to say that it is your attitude, your winning attitude, that makes you so incredibly successful. As I said, I will never in a lifetime forget Erin. And to see what an attitude she had with the use of so little of her body. And I want to tell you, I came away from that visit changed for a lifetime. It was the day I laughed more than I've ever laughed in my life, I think. And it was actually not due to Erin, it was due to what happened prior to there. But it was just like, it was such a memorable day for me in so many different ways. And yet, it is just like how honored I was, to be in the same room and company and realize that, what Erin fights every day is more than most people would ever be able to cope with. And that makes her an out and out winner in my case. And I don't know about you, but there's part of me when I heard about this, motorized gurney that they're going to make for her, there's part of me that went, I would love to have a race with Erin, down the corridors, in another one. And I know Erin knows that I'm not lying here, because she knows me pretty well, and I would really, love to have that type horn on a gurney and lie face down and try and beat Erin, because I bet you anything she becomes, a world champion gurney racer, and the nurses will be in fear of her. Watch out, because Erin could be coming down the passageway any minute now. And so I know that she will bring a lot of laughter to a lot of people's lives as she takes this next part of her journey. And I wish her lots of love and laughter and lots of. I know you're going to impress so many people and you're going to influence so many people just by being who you are, Erin. And just keep doing what you do. All right, for as long as you possibly can. I know it's been a difficult month for you um, this month, and I don't want to make light of that, but I know it's been probably a difficult month for you. But hang in there and keep doing the very best you can, regardless of what somebody else thinks you're a winner or not. I want to tell you something. Somebody once told me that you will always be okay as long as one person believes in you. And I think you know who that one person is if you need them. So you have no choices about how you lose, but you do have choice about how you come back and prepare to win again. All right. And Jody, when I thought about it, how many times have you chosen not to quit on yourself, but to go, okay, if this is the next part of the journey, now what dreams do I need to let go of, if necessary? What realities do I need to face? How can I do this better? How do I do this with a pandemic going on? How do I do this with food getting more expensive? And I'm already living day to day on so little. And I look at it, Jody, and I couldn't help but be very, very in awe of all that you, and now Lionel being diagnosed with illness as well. You go, you're doing such a great job. Oh, by the way, while I think about that, for those of you who watched the Friday night broadcast where we made paella, the Spanish dish of rice, I want to tell you something. I had half of it immediately, and then I put the other half in the fridge. Well, then next night, I took that second half and I put it in the air fryer at 400 degrees because I wanted it to get crispy on top. I want to tell you, in future, after I've cooked it, I'm going to put it in and let it get crispy on top again, because boy, did that taste good. It was just wonderful to taste. And I was so happy. All right. So, all right. Jeannie's saying, as debaters, when we lost, we were taught to be decent and polite, not a sore loser. Yes. I think the fact that you were trained to be a debater, all right, is a very good thing, because I remember in debating, one of the things that you do is you always find something you can agree on. Is that right, Jeannie? I presume that you learned the same thing. You start off by saying to the opposing side, you mentioned the fact A, B, and C, and I have to agree with you on that one. However, da 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 da, da, and then you carry on. All right, because it's not about that you're totally wrong and I'm totally right. We're both going to make good points. And then it's up to everybody else to make a decision. When I was training young people in leadership, one of the things that we used to do was to have a mock court case where we take a real situation, one that had gone through the courts, and then we'd have all the participants act the different people, and they'd have a script to do. But it used to be always one where you'd start off with everybody thinking that it was a no-brainer as to who would win it. And then because of the circumstances, you'd end up changing everybody's mind. And, that is, once you hear all the facts. And the same thing, I am pretty certain, although we know that Nick Kyrgios had only met Novak twice before, and he'd won both. Now, the odds were pretty good for him to beat him, but he'd never met him at a Wimbledon final. Yeah, there's something about that experience that, and you could see that. You could see, although he gave him a very good run for his money in the first, he won the first set, and he won it easily in some ways. But you also knew that don't write Novak off. He's been here too many times. You got to know he's got the staying power, he's got the mentality, he's got everything that it takes to be the champion, and he ended up doing that. Jody is saying that I believed in her ability to turn things around. That gave me the confidence I needed. You'll never know what that did to my heart. I felt like a new person. I had new fight in me. Yes, it's the old story. If it's about we choose whether we fight or not. All right, and I would say when your life is on the line, that there's no harm in fighting. All right, Erin, I am certain there have been other people in your situation that gave up fighting a long time ago. But you keep fighting to do the very best you can with whatever it is you have available to you. And I cannot thank you enough for being that much of a winner, because it just inspires me all the time. I sometimes wish that you could hear me talk about you to myself. All right. And like, I'll feel like not getting up in the morning, or I ache a bit and I'm going, yeah, really? And how do you think Erin feels when she wakes up and she's got to wait for somebody to turn her over? Yeah, I don't think you have much to complain about, Sal. All right, so winning is great, sure. But if you're really going to do something in life, the secret is learning how to lose. And the reason for that is because it is in getting it wrong that we get it right. How many of you have had that happen in your life where you do something wrong? How many of you have been on your keyboard and accidentally hit a combination of keys and something magical happened and you have no idea how you did it? And you're going, not in 1,000 years could I do that again. I found recently that I keep turning on my airplane mode, which basically cuts you out of the internet. And it took me the longest time to realize the reason I'm doing it is the length of this nail, this one, right? And what's happening is when I go up to hit the number 3, I hit, I think it's F2 or F3. But it's, in other words, when I go to hit one key, the tip of my nail is hitting the F, yeah, the effing key. And I accidentally keep turning on my airplane mode, which knocks me out of the internet. And it's just like, I did it again. And it's very frustrating. I know what you're saying. Cut your nails, Sal. Yeah. I may have to do that, but it'll be a choice, right? Now, this I thought was a quote that we all need to think about, right? And remind ourselves of this. And here's the quote: I love winning. I can take losing, but most of all, I love to play. This reminds me of Nadal, Rafa Nadal, right, the Spaniard. You really get a sense that, yeah, he could have quit being a top flight tennis player and retired being, a very, very wealthy person, or even retired and, become a very expensive coach to somebody. But no, he keeps playing, even though he has a foot problem that is getting very bad. It's going to be interesting because it is possible that Rafa won't be able to play the US Open as well because of his injury. And if Novak is not allowed to play, that also opens up a whole new big gate for a lot of players who would not normally make it all the way through. So would you all agree that it is not whether you get knocked down in life, because we all do. It's whether you choose to get up and carry on. And, as Jody said, right, that she realized that with the right motivation, she wanted to fight some more. Erin, every day, wakes up and decides to fight some more. And so to me, I think it is really important that you understand you will always fight for what you want. All right. Or, but how you do it will be your way. All right. Not somebody else's. It'll be your way. And I look at it and go, we all get up every day. We don't have to. We choose to. Now you're saying, yes, I have to get up every day, Sal, because if I don't go to work, I don't get paid. But that's the consequence. You still choose to get up, right? Because your motivation is to earn the money. Or for those of you like me who are retired, all right, you can choose to stay in bed all day, right? You're retired. You can do what you like, supposedly. But we don't. I get a lot of judgment on me because I choose to not go to bed until early in the morning, like 2 or 3 in the morning is when I go to bed. So I sleep most of the mornings, except when there is a big tennis final. And suddenly, when there's a big tennis final, I don't need my usual amount of sleep. I seem to be able to get by quite well with only 3.5. How do I know that? Because I keep doing it. Now, will I sleep hopefully like a log tonight? Yes. And by the way, this morning after um, the match had finished, I did a few things that needed to get done, and then I thought, I've got the broadcast ready, so I'm feeling okay about that. I think I'm just going to go and take an hour nap, and I ended up with an hour and a half nap. I am pretty certain I will do it again while I'm binge watching something. But what made me feel like such a winner was that, Billy the bike, I've got that under desk bike. I obviously was pedaling away watching the tennis. And for me to to do 10,000 steps before I normally would have even woken up. I wonder how many I've done now. Oh, I've done 12, over 12,000 now. Um, and I haven't done very much, since then. But, to put in that many steps in 3 hours was just amazing. But I wanted to. Nobody forced me to exercise this morning. I just got into the routine, and the fact that I was watching something that fascinated me, I wasn't thinking. All right, Jody said, I go to sleep about 3 or 4 a.m. I gave up caring if I was judged for that. Yeah, my pain is less during the evening and the overnight hours, so I do what is best for me. Exactly. You don't have a right time of the day to be functioning. It's just every society thinks there's a right time because they have to work, right? And and it's like people kept saying to me, "Oh, go away, fly." People kept saying to me, "Oh, it's a long weekend this weekend, isn't it?" or something, and I go, "I don't know. Every weekend is a long weekend for me." And it's just like, every weekend is a long weekend for Jody, right? For those of us who don't work for whatever reason, every weekend is a long weekend for Aaron, all right? And it's just like for those of us who don't have to work, every weekend is a long weekend. So sometimes I go, "Oh, was it a statutory holiday today?" "Why, you didn't notice? It was a long weekend." And I'm going, "Why would I notice a long weekend?" So Jody, yes, I think being able to let go of the training of working Monday to Friday and getting up at 6 or 6:30 in the morning every day is one of the interesting parts of retirement, however, whether it's forced retirement or otherwise. And I say that a lot to people that I meet that are about to retire. It's going to take you about a year to work out you don't have to wake up at 6 o'clock. And they go, "What?" And I said, "You will think, that you're on vacation, and for about 3 weeks, that's what you will do. But your brain still thinks you're meant to be going to work. So it'll keep waking you up early in the morning." And I said, "It'll take about a year before your brain goes, 'Oh, no, we don't have to get up anymore.'" And I said, "Then you want to watch out, because then you're going to find out what your real productive time is. And I agree with Jody. I am an afternoon and evening person. And that's when I'm most productive, is in the afternoon, not in the morning, in the afternoon. And because I have the mentality I have, the quieter it is, the more I achieve. So therefore, when everybody else goes to bed and I'm not going to have a phone call or cars are going to be going backwards and forwards, whatever, the quieter it is, the more productive I can be in some ways. I get a lot more done in less time. Losing a game is heartbreaking. Losing your sense of excellence or worth is a tragedy. And so I look at, what Aaron, switch was from they don't want me sitting anymore, but now I get to have an electric gurney. I thought that must have been quite an interesting switch. And I could see the kid in Aaron going, oh, that'll be fun. And then I could see her racing down the corridor. And then I thought, gosh, I could see myself enjoying that as well. Not if I had to do it as much as, if I could be there and race with her, I would enjoy that. How about this quote? Losing doesn't eat at me the way it used to. I just get ready for the next play, the next game, the next season. So, Jody, I'm pretty certain that when you got your first diagnosis, you thought that was the end of the game. And then you found out, no, I did the right things and I was fortunate. There's some luck in that as well. But I overcame it. And then you end up with something else and you go, oh, well, that's not a good one either. And then you go, well, hang on a second. I can defy the odds on this one as well if I do the right things. Maybe not. And then you find out that you do the right things and your life has extended measurably. And now I look at it and go, thank you so much. And if you think you're not an influence and an inspiration, I wouldn't have done 10,000 steps today if I hadn't seen you get that elliptical. Jody got an underdesk elliptical. I thought that's what I got, but it ended up being a bike. It doesn't matter. I'm still doing the work. But here's the other thing I want you to think about. It is really weird. I have upped my steps by 2/3 and I'm still packed. I suddenly started putting on weight. I think you all know I was dropping weight like this. But as soon as the elliptical came, I started to put on weight, and I put on quite a bit. Now, was it because the heat came at the same time and my body is storing water? I believe that's what it is. But it's also possible that it's some of that. And also, what if I'm building muscle? And I seem to remember people keep telling me muscle weighs heavier. And therefore, it is possible that that's what's happening. Jeannie's saying, I'm definitely a morning person. Today, I drove to a 7:30 a.m. mass, but couldn't find any parking spots. So I went to 4 places, none of them. Okay, no coincidences. I finally left without attending. Wow, isn't that amazing? You'd think you'd find a parking spot somewhere. Jeannie, I've got to ask you a question. Before you leave home, can you see a parking space? Do you do that trick? And the reason I ask you that is it's amazing how often that works. So before you go to the next mass, as you turn on your car, take a second to just visualize the church you're going to and where the parking is, and see somebody leaving a parking space just as you arrive. I know you think I'm, Looney Tunes, but you will be amazed how many times that happens. And Jeannie, I don't know if you've ever heard me tell the story about the one time that I did it where I really badly needed a parking space. And when I got there, what I visualized wasn't working. And it is funny. Hang on a second. I need to get my whiteboard here. Because I knew I was running a bit late. Yes, and that's what I was going to say. The parking's all right. So let me just say for the viewers who don't know, I'll get to your story, Jeannie. So before I left home, I could see this was the building I was trying to get to, and I knew it had parking right outside. So what I did is I visualized one of these parking spaces right outside. I visualized one of the cars moving. I wasn't fussy which one, and I sort of played with them. But when I actually got there, I came around and there wasn't any parking. So I went around the block a few times and I still wasn't any parking. Why? Because there was a dirty gray truck taking up all that space. And two of the three were available. And that's what Jeannie's saying. There was a huge contraption taking up 8 to 10 spaces where I usually park. And that's what we didn't allow for. All right. So now, Jeannie, the picture needs to change. That you can see the parking spots and you can see yourself driving into the parking spot. All right. You'll be amazed how well it works. You will be absolutely amazed how well it works. So the other thing is, isn't it wonderful that many people are going to church? Right? I've got to say that. And I wonder, because I'm pretty certain when the internet and Zoom and everything else came to play, that an awful lot of people said, oh, people will stop going to church. But then, as Jeannie said, she couldn't get into the parking space, so she went home and, and today she watched the Mass virtually. Aren't we lucky to have that technology? So you didn't lose out. You just weren't meant to. Maybe if you'd ended up in one of the churches, you would have got a batch of COVID or something. I always believe there's a reason for that. This is a nice quote, and I want you to think about that this week, all right? The will to win is important, but the will to prepare is vital. All right? The will to prepare is vital. So, you look at it, and I say to people, I think one of my greatest joys in doing DearMamaSal is that I prepare 3 broadcasts a week. Right? How many of you know that takes quite a bit of time? I don't just do it on the fly, do I? It takes quite a bit of time and it takes quite a bit of effort. And then I need to find the quotes that I think are relevant to what's going on. I believe that I gain a great deal by that. Right? I'm not that noble. I enjoy that part of it. Now, sometimes I have that ready by Wednesday. And sometimes I'm still working on it, an hour or two before the broadcast. But, being prepared is half the battle, isn't it? If you are prepared to deal with whatever it is you have to deal with, I am certain that Erin is now preparing to be able to guide her motorized gurney up and down corridors and wherever else she wants to go. I can see her lying there thinking, how am I going to do that? Right? Wonder what the controls will be like. They're going to be custom built for her, I'm sure. So it's just like this. It's like, what if what if the controller falls? Well, it's probably going to be on a lead, right? So, or make sure that it is. Put a lead on it. Even if it's a dog lead, put a lead on that contraption. So I look at it and go that there will be preparation for that. Jody, with you and all that happened to you, I know you kept preparing new meals, new diets, new whatever to be able to cope. We look at Leah, who went through the bypass surgery as well, the stomach bypass. And, she lost, I think, 60 pounds before she even had the operation, right? Because why didn't she lose the 60 pounds before that? Because they won't let you have the operation unless you lose a whole lot of weight. And that is called motivation. If you are prepared to do what it takes to lose the weight, they are prepared to do the operation. Jody, how much did they tell you that they wanted you to lose before they would do the operation? It was also, I know you overachieved, but I seem to remember it was quite a lot as well. So what they're basically doing is asking themselves, do you have enough ability to control your mind and your actions to be able to cope with the post-operation problems? Right? Jody said they said that you needed to lose 30. How many did you lose? 100 before the operation? I know you overachieved. Yes, who you are. Um, but it's like what they need to know is, can you control yourself to that degree? And I'm certain a lot of people went, why didn't I do this earlier? I wouldn't need the operation. You lost about 40. I thought it was more than that. Anyway, so congratulations. You did what was needed. The same thing. How many people do you know that needed to have knee operations, all right? And the same thing. Most people who need knee operations are people who are obese. Why? They're carrying too much weight for their knees. And so the first thing that they say is, in order to have the operation, you need to drop 30 pounds. What? No, but I'm in pain. Well, if you want the operation, you need to drop 30 pounds. It's a very interesting dynamic. And how many people do? Okay. So Jody is clarifying that situation for me. I knew she'd lost over 100. She said, 40 pounds from the time they evaluated me, I had already lost 90. Right? So they were very impressed with what she had lost on her own, but they needed another 40 down so she could 30 pounds down. She lost another 40. Well done, Jody. I know I was amazed. And I think one of the things that it's interesting to me that I look at it now and go, I could be really beating up on myself. And there are a couple of times during the day where I don't mind telling you that, even though I'm doing all these extra steps, I'm putting on weight. And I'm going, it's not because you're doing the exercise, or it could be. It could be that you're building that much muscle now. And that's, along with the water retention, that's what's causing the weight gain. So I won't really know about that until we get into September, October, where the temperatures go down again, hopefully. So I won't be able to find that out. And I'm thinking it's weird because now I've got air conditioning. The house is that much cooler. So why have I got all this water retention coming back again? Okay. That's a conundrum I can't work out at the moment. How about this one? The price of success is hard work, right? Dedication to the job at hand. How many of you know nobody forced me to get out of bed this morning? I chose to. It was hard work. But what made it easy was I really wanted to watch that match. It's called motivation. I believe that all of you will have had that moment where perhaps in the early days of working, that you were so tired, you just, when you got home from work, you just wanted to, get in the tub with a glass of wine and forget about the day. You were so exhausted. And the phone rings and the guy that you've always fancied goes, do you happen to be free tonight? Oh, yeah. You see, what was the difference between all I want to do is sit in the bathtub with a glass of wine and, oh, yeah, I'll be ready in half an hour? Motivation. That is the difference. You will always do what you want to do, or who you want to do. So think about that. We will always do what we want to do. I spent a day solving problems ready for Christmas. All right, that's why I start Christmas so early, because I know it won't be easy learning how to do new things. So I give myself plenty of time. But the funny thing was, I spent all day solving problems, and then just as I was about to stop, I heard it was somebody's birthday, the neighbor's son-in-law next door. It was his 61st birthday, and he had come to visit. And I was invited to join them for dinner, which I couldn't do because I was doing the broadcast. But I said, I certainly will come over and wish him a happy birthday. And then, they sent over a piece of cake for me. which would be one of the reasons why I'm heavier, because it was a great piece of cake. It nearly put me into a sugar coma, I can tell you, because it was a little bit of cake with a lot of frosting. You know the sort of cake I mean? I think it was a chocolate fudge with about this much frosting on it, heavy on frosting. Losing is part of the game. If you never lose, you are never truly tested and never forced to grow. How many of you took an exam and failed it by a little bit, and it was the motivation you needed to go back? You didn't quit on it. You wanted to, but you didn't quit on it. You went back until you passed. We've got a viewer that we know and support who is just amazing. And she decided that even though she's got all the reasons in the world not to do it, that she's going to do a series of university courses. And it's not easy for her, right? Studying doesn't come easily to her. And you can tell that the subjects that she took, are not easy for her. And it's really interesting to watch what happens. She just recently went through some exams and didn't do nearly as well as she thought she was going to. That must be devastating. But do I think she will quit on it? No. I think she'll get a wake-up call and go, I need to do more work. But did she have reason for not having all that studying done properly prepared? Remember, that's what it's all about. It's not whether you win or lose. Are you properly prepared? And I'm pretty certain that when she asked herself, was I properly prepared, she probably will say no. And she had good reasons, right? She had good reason not to be properly prepared. That stuff was going on in her house and with the family and everything. And so, it's not about she lost. She gave it a good go, and I know her well enough to know that she's not going to quit. She'll just probably lick her wounds for a bit, and then she'll be back at it. Failure does not come from losing, but from not trying. All right? If you don't even bother to try, that's what is losing. So I don't see her not passing, the subject she wanted to. I don't see that as losing, because I am certain she has more knowledge now than when she started. One of the things I always used to say to people, and it's important to remember, if you have a goal in life and your present position on your goal is here at A, and you are headed towards B, all right? Any step that you take towards B is a win. Even if you fall flat on your face, you still have learned this much more. And then when you're ready, and it can be 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 years later, you will take the next step and maybe again fall flat on your face. But you won't have forgotten what this is, and now you've added this. How many of you can see the point I'm making? Every time you try a little bit more, you learn a little bit more, and nobody can take that learning away from you. Right? And so I don't believe that studying for an exam and failing it is failing. If you know that you studied and you did your best, how can that possibly be a failure? It's the people who never even bother to try that are the failures. And again, success is never final. Failure is never final. And it's never fatal. Right? It's courage that counts. How many of you can see that she has the courage to keep on trying? How many of you can see that Erin has the courage to keep on dealing with the next problem? That Jody and Lionel keep tackling the next problem, regardless of what life is throwing at them. And if that's not winning, I don't know what is. All right? It's not about trophies. I'm pretty certain that Novak and even Nick are going to end their days going, I wish I'd got another trophy. I'm pretty certain they're going to remember how hard they worked for what they did. and how many people they inspired. How many young people will go home tonight and want to play that trick shot? And how many coaches and tennis pros are going to be having to up their game because kids are going to be asking to learn how to do that trick shot. All right. And they probably can't do it because in their day it was never done. And now they're going to have to learn so they can teach the next generation. And by the way, we know that the next generation is going to go, that's quite a clever shot. But I'm now going to invent a couple more. All right. Do the impossible. That's what they do. I am pretty certain that when I was watching tennis in my teens, that nobody served over 100 miles an hour. I don't know for sure. Jody, can you just Google something for me? Can we find out? Let's go back. How far back should we go? I'm thinking how Becker. Who was before Becker? Well, let's try Becker. He was a really good server. So how fast were Boris Becker's serves? I'm thinking Billie Jean King. How fast were her serves? All right. What I'm saying is that I am pretty certain that the players in my that I was watching early on didn't have serves as strong as they are today. There were a couple of serves in this match at well over 120 miles an hour. You're going, think about that. Think about the power you need to be able to serve a ball over 120 miles an hour. All right. Actually, it would be kilometers an hour. Boris, 141. Yeah, I had a feeling he had a really strong serve. But I think so he was exceptional. And one of the things they said today was this is more like the old school tennis that we used to watch, right? With a very powerful serve and then a very powerful return. It wasn't the 30 different shots going in a row. It was very powerful stuff that was going on. And it was amazing to watch. And because it was much quicker, it was really exciting to watch. So, but I'm pretty certain that the average across the board of people's rate, there was the exceptional player like Boris Becker that came in. What about Andre Agassi? I'm thinking Arthur Ashe. What about Arthur Ashe? He was pretty far back. I'm trying to think of who was I watching way back when. How fast did Arthur Ashe serve? He had quite a serve as well. Billie Jean was 125, right? That's what made her an incredible player. I'm pretty certain that Steffi Graf, had an incredible serve as well. So you look at it and go, but what's happened now? The serves are different, all right? There were a couple of players that could do that. Now, I think you'll find that if you're not, if you're not serving over 100, you're not even qualifying. That's the interesting thing. But in my day, that was the exception, and now it's the norm. And that's amazing. And that's how we've developed. If you think about it, why was the 3-minute mile so amazing? Nobody had ever done it. But how long did the guy hold the record for? Not very long. Why? Once one person broke the record, they broke the rule book because they now knew it could be done. You see, that's the sadness of it. It takes one incredible human being to push the envelope and do it, and then other people will do it because they now know it's possible. Up until that time, when the first 3-minute mile, if you watch the movie, up until that time, nobody thought it was possible, but they trained to do it. All right. They knew they had to do this speed in the first minute. They had to get to this point in the second minute. And then they had to finish at this speed. And they knew it was possible. 128.6 for Serena Williams. Interesting stuff. Thanks, Jeannie. All right. So isn't that interesting, right? That you can see that this is where the power is now and tennis changed for a long time. It was about these long rallies, very strong. Wrong. Now we're getting the trick shots coming in. And I think in the next decade, we will see more and more trick shots. Why? Because we've got people like Carlos, the Spaniard, doing many more drop shots. And now you notice them coming in more again and not so much baseline stuff. Steffi was 180 kilometers an hour. Okay, so what's that in miles? That's probably about 100 and something. Yeah, interesting stuff there, right? Thanks, Jody. I really appreciate the hard work here. So, what I want you to say to be aware of this week is not what you're not good at. 100 thanks, Jody. Oh, you're so quick. 111 miles an hour. All right. So, what I want you to think about is how many years have these people trained to be able to get qualified? I am certain if you talk to Nick Kyrgios, the first day he qualified for a major event, to be in the top 128 players, he must have, thought that was his dream come true. The far dream was one day to win it, but it's like they know that they may never win it, all right? And they can train a lifetime and not win it. And so today, when Nick Kyrgios walked onto center court for the final of Wimbledon, that was the ultimate win, even if he didn't go home with a trophy. With tears in my eyes, I pray that he knows that. He worked a lifetime and played in spite of himself and all his mental antics that he gets up to. He still made it to the final of Wimbledon. Yes, Kimmy's saying they probably started training when they were young. Do you know, Novak was saying he watched, I think Pete Sampras, I think he said, when he was 5. When Novak was 5, he watched Wimbledon and said, I want to be able to do that. And he begged his parents to buy him a tennis racket at 5. And they were in the stands today. How beautiful is that? And you can imagine that they probably scraped together. I think they owned a small restaurant or something. They probably really struggled to get him the racket. And then they probably really struggled, to get him lessons when they realized he had some talent. And then they probably really gave up stuff so he could train properly and become a winner. And you can imagine the first couple of things that he won, they must have been so proud of him. But I'm certain there was a time that they wished they'd never started it. How many of you can feel that? The times when getting up at some unearthly hour of the day to go and practice before school, or, picking him up late at night because he's doing practice after school. I'm thinking about hockey player mums and soccer mums. And there are some days where you're going, I wish I'd never started this. But, playing sports is a wonderful, wonderful thing to do if you want to live life. Why? It doesn't always go right, does it? And sometimes you have to accept that losing is part of the game. And some people quit and never play again. And others use that knowledge and go, he was that much faster than I was on the return serve. And go back and go to the coach. Okay, I need to up my return serve, don't I? And the coach is probably saying, I've been telling you that for a year. But you understand. Bad things do happen. How you respond to them defines your character and the quality of your life. You can choose to sit in perpetual sadness, immobilized by the gravity of your loss, or you can choose to rise up from the pain. And that is where I see people like Erin and Jody. When I see Jeannie, after her fire, she could have shriveled up in a ball and had a mental breakdown and never got over the loss of her house. But she didn't. She hung in there for both her and for York at times, and for Misty, their dog. And she just kept doing one step at a time, doing the best she could every day until she had her house back again. Not the one she lost, but her new house back again, with new appliances and probably a new paint job that she wanted. The amazing, the things. And by the way, how many things did she never replace? Because she realized she didn't need all that stuff. Jeannie's saying, my brother, a high school tennis coach, gave sneakers and a racket to a needy boy. The boy grew up becoming a successful teacher and said he always thanked his brother. Always thanked her brother. I want to tell you, we've probably all got stories like that. I remember my physical education teacher putting a note on the notice board saying, the following person needs to please attend the next athletics training session, because I believe she is hiding her talent under a bushel. Biblical quote, I think. And it was me. And I remember going, I read this, people saying, have you seen what's on the notice board? And I'm going, no. And I went to the notice board and I'm going, why on earth does she want me in the athletics training? I can't run. And when I got there, some of you have heard me tell this story, but it's worth repeating. When I got there, I was the only student who didn't have, cleats, proper running shoes. I was in my hockey shoes. Because I played first team hockey. And I didn't play a forward position, right? I was defense. You can imagine me. Everybody else let them down. I wasn't the goalie. No, I didn't like being goalie. But boy, you had to get past me to get to the goalie. I was that person. And believe you me, third point. In lacrosse. Now, lacrosse is where they huck the ball through the air, with a pole with a net on the end. Dangerous game. And I played third point in that. And I want to tell you, people went to hospital trying to get past me. I'm not proud of that, but it's true. Not because I meant to hurt them, but they fell or tripped or did whatever. And, I know that it happened. But, it's like I wasn't the best player on the team. So why was I being picked to go for athletics training? And what it was, and I didn't know it, but I was talking as usual, talking to my friends, a couple of my friends, and they were training to do the relay. And I was I was with them, and I was training with them because I wanted to carry on talking. How many of you can see that one? All right. I didn't want to stop telling them the story, so I was running with them. But I was running in in my hockey boots on tiptoe, because I also did ballet. And I found that I could run on my tippy toes, like ballerinas go on their tippy toes and do this. I could run like that in my hockey boots. And so I literally was running on my tippy toes next to the trainers, and I was keeping up with them. And I didn't know it, but the physical education teacher saw me do that. And she reckoned if she can run that fast on her tiptoes in her hockey boots, imagine what she could do if I gave her a pair of cleats. And the answer was, I ended up in the relay. I ended up in hurdles. I ended up in all sorts of athletic events. I was definitely not somebody who did those sort of things. But because I had the motivation to carry on talking to my friends who were training, I ended up on the team, and as you heard, ended up saving the day for my team by doing the shot put. So I think that competition is a wonderful thing. If you don't judge yourself by it. All right? I don't think that it is right for Erin to judge herself against able-bodied people. That's not a fair judgment. What I know is there are not many people in Erin's position that would be doing as much as she does. And I know she makes people laugh every day. Why? I've been that person receiving that. I know that every day she inspires people. Why? Because she inspires me every day. I know that she makes a difference in people's lives just by being who she is. Doesn't have to do great things. Just by waking up and deciding to carry on is the inspiration. I am certain her doctors, nurses, and caregivers are all in awe of what she does. And I'm sure she's a pain. Most competitive people are. But we wouldn't have it any other way. And I look at Jody, who I know inspires us all, and I look at Lionel, who gave up working and doing all the things he wanted to do so that he could look after Jody. And I look at it and I go, there are heroes out there. And they are fighting the fight, and they are in competition with themselves every day. And I want you to remember the reason they win every day and wake up for another one is because they never give up trying to do better than they did yesterday. They never give up. They never quit. There are days when I know they feel like it, but they don't. And it's because they don't quit that we all win. Because we can sit in awe of them, and that inspires us. I know I would not be doing 10 to 15,000 steps a day with my little mini bike under the table if Jody hadn't talked to me about hers. I'm not in competition with Jody. There's no way I ever would want to be. Right? I wouldn't want to be in competition with Erin. I don't think I have the courage to be as brave as they are. But what I do know is I am so glad that the circles of our lives intersected and I got to meet them. Jeannie, you have no idea how your ability to cope with your fire helped me cope with mine. And so I thank you all. This is not about anybody winning. It's about, by being who we are, we all inspire other people, whether we know about it or not. And that is the message that I want you to know. It is not about winning or losing. It is about that you participate in life and that you don't give up on yourself. This is Dear Mama Sal wishing you a wonderful week and wishing that whatever game you are playing, that you play it to the best of your ability every day. And some days you won't want to play it quite as hard as others, but just don't quit on yourself. I know that I can say, what's the point of doing 10,000 steps a day or even 15 if I keep putting on the weight? But you all know I'm not going to quit doing it. Because I believe somewhere in all of this, there is the answer to what's happening inside my body. And I am going to end up being overweight, not obese. I'm, I'm, it takes as long as it takes. And I'm going to get there. This is Dear Mama Sal saying, keep playing the game, people. Keep winning it on your terms. Don't worry about other people's. Win it on your terms. Have a wonderful week. And thank you, Jody, for the help and great research in a heartbeat. I don't know how you do it, but it's wonderful. I'm so glad you do. And I want to thank you all for being here to support one another. We are all better players in the game of life because of it. See you on Friday. Bye-bye for now.